Gardens by the Bay นับเป็นโครงการสวนขนาดยักษ์ที่ต้องใช้พลังงานในการดำเนินการเยอะมากไม่ว่าจะเป็นการสร้างแสงสว่างหรือการสร้างความเย็นจัดเพื่อรักษาพันธุ์พืชต่างถิ่นไว้แต่ในขณะเดียวกันก็เป็นโครงการที่ต้องการกระตุ้นเรื่องจิตสำนึกในการรักษาสิ่งแวดล้อมจึงจำเป็นอย่างยิ่งที่ Gardens by the Bay ต้องหาทางออกเพื่อรักษาสมดุลนี้ค่ะ
Gardens by the Bay is a big project. It's also a big place. On one hand, it looks like it consumes a lot of energy. On the other hand, it tries to raise awareness about the environment. Isn't that a contradiction somehow?
This is a good question because, well, the Gardens by the Bay actually has done quite a lot in terms of sustainable maintenance. So, for example, we actually collect all the agricultural waste from Singapore. Whenever we prune trees and the leaves and so on, we process these waste and we burn it in Gardens by the Bay to generate electricity through a biomass generator. And therefore, as a result of that, the Gardens by the Bay actually does not have to draw from the grid. It is actually self-sustaining in terms of energy. So actually, it's a very good case study on how we can have city living in a very sustainable way.
What are the technologies put in place here, the environmentally friendly technologies?
Yeah, of course, having a conservatory in the tropics, we have to take care of the carbon footprint. So we have to make sure, first thing we do before we even build, we have to make sure that we get the sustainable cooling technology. So we actually have a biomass system using horticultural waste from the garden and from around Singapore to cool the conservatory. So these are burned to create the energy for the cooling of the conservatory. Then we also looked at the types of glass that we use so that it lets in the maximum amount of light but keeps up the heat. We would look at ground cooling, so we don't cool the entire dome, but only in spaces where it matters, like where the people and where the plants are. So there are many various different types of technologies that we put in together to make this a sustainable project.
Now for the super trees, what are their other uses apart from looking wow, having the wow effect and looking really big?
Yeah. So the super trees is a vertical garden, so we can actually plant up all the bromeliads, the ferns, orchids, and so on. So you get instant giant tree right from the very beginning. Then on top of some of the trees, they are actually serving as air exhaust for the conservatory because the hot air from the top will be extracted and then brought up from the trees. Some of the trees will also have photovoltaic cells, rainwater collectors. So these are showcases for educational purposes to tell us what a real tree actually does. You know, they actually absorb carbon dioxide. They they are actually sponges for rainwater to prevent flooding and erosion and things like that.
You bring plants all over the world to Gardens by the Bay. At the same time, you want to teach people about conserving the environment as well. Isn't that a contradiction? You are bringing in flowers and plants from their natural habitat to be here, and then at the same time, you're talking about preserving the environment.
Actually, it's more like a collection of these plants. A lot of these plants are from nurseries. Yes, because like for example baobabs, we do get them from nurseries, and some of them we get them from when there are developments in those countries where the plants are affected. So we actually work with the government to take some of those over. Yes.
โครงการ Gardens by the Bay นับเป็นอีกหนึ่งการลงทุนครั้งใหญ่ของสิงคโปร์แม้จะเป็นการลงทุนมหาศาลแต่สิงคโปร์มองว่าการใช้ต้นไม้สร้างประเทศคือยุทธศาสตร์ที่ทรงประสิทธิภาพที่สุดไม่ว่าจะในเชิงคุณภาพชีวิตและในเชิงเศรษฐกิจค่ะ
How do you expect Gardens by the Bay to contribute economically to Singapore?
When we do this garden, actually from an economic sense, the land value around the garden goes up. Yeah. So it helps to bring up the land value. That's from the real estate point of view. Strategically, when we position ourselves, Singapore as the global, we want to become the global city of distinction. So really, when we build upon the brand of Garden City and becoming a city in the garden, this is something that's quite unique and distinctive about Singapore that we want to put us on the global map. So that's from a strategic sense. Then locally, we also want to look at improving quality of life. So really, the Gardens by the Bay is a garden for all Singaporeans, for everyone to enjoy, where they can come here and everybody can come here. It's a free public garden for all.
จุดเด่นของ Gardens by the Bay ก็คือการรวมเอาพันไม้จากทั่วโลกมาไว้ที่เดียวกันสร้างประสบการณ์ใหม่ให้กับผู้ที่มาเยี่ยมชมนะคะและสำหรับประเทศสิงคโปร์ต้องยอมรับค่ะว่าเป็นประเทศที่คิดตลอดเวลาว่าจะทำอะไรดีที่จะทำให้ตัวเองนั้นมีความน่าสนใจอยู่เสมอจริงๆสิงคโปร์เป็นประเทศเล็กๆทรัพยากรไม่ได้มีอะไรมากมายนะคะแต่ก็สามารถที่จะทำให้จากไม่มีอะไรกลายเป็นมีอะไรขึ้นมาได้เป็นประเทศที่คิดไกลและมองยาวค่ะพบกันใหม่สัปดาห์หน้าวันนี้สวัสดีค่ะ